I got up pretty early yesterday for playing soccer, so I was
Oh,
just falling asleep by midnight. How
that's
about you?
good.
Did you do any customs or anything?
I actually did. Yeah,
What did
had
you
a
dress up?
little hangout with friends.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
dress as a robber, like a
Oh,
classic,
really?
yeah, classic thief.
That's
Morning,
cool.
guys. Sorry,
Hey, Colin.
PC
Welcome. How are you?
problems this morning.
Oh,
Oh, okay. But yeah, cool to see you, Colin.
yeah. I can't help you with that. I have no idea.
Yeah, neither
Well,
do
we
I.
had a bad storm last night, and didn't realize my laptop was plugged in, and couldn't get the charger to work. But now it's
Oh,
Mm,
working.
okay, that's good.
okay, but yeah, hope you can fix it soon. Yeah, also welcome to the people on YouTube to today's class. This is focused on songwriting tools. It's gonna be a very fun one. I like to explore that creative side of playing and teaching. I'm sure Miguel does too. So yeah, let's get started. Before doing that, I just wanted to say, guys, welcome to the kind of stuff we do here at GuitarZoom Academy. In case you're interested in taking your guitar playing to a next level and having personalized assessments on your journey, we are here for you. So we're gonna leave you the link here on the chat, so you can apply if you're interested in taking a deeper look on what we do here. With that said, let's get into it. So, what do you have in mind, Miguel? Where would you start?
I was thinking that maybe we could talk about something like chords that can get us started with songwriting. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the melodies as well, and maybe form as well. I think those three things are kind of key when writing music. So we need to have melody, we need to have some chords, some harmony that goes with that melody, and we also need form. So we need to come up with a verse, maybe with a chorus and a bridge, maybe an introduction, an outro. We have pretty much endless combinations and possibilities. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that as well.
That's a great point. Structure. That's a very good topic to talk about when writing music. So yeah, let's get into it. Where would you start?
I think starting with chords will be a good starting point. I think most people tend to go there when writing songs. At least that was the way I used to do it. When I was starting writing songs, and we usually go to chords, to the chords that we know, right? So maybe we played songs with G, D, C, or whatever chords we know, and we just try different chord combinations. Okay, Juan, he's taking care of his dog. So let me just plug this in. There we go. So that's definitely a possibility, and I think that's actually really nice to just explore the chords with the guitar without thinking much. So, and also the guitar has many possibilities that are unique to the guitar. For example, open strings, how you can, for example, grab one shape of a chord and leave some open strings, for example, and come up with very special chords that work pretty much only in the guitar, because you get very interesting intervals or things like that you can come up with those kind of things without thinking much about theory, without thinking, okay, what chord is this? Is a major, minor? But just trying out Now some will sound better than others, but that's kind of the idea, to try them out and find chords that you like and come up with interesting progressions. Then, well, what if we want to set our song in one specific key? So let me just pull up this document that I have here. No, this one. One second. So, okay, here it is. So, when we analyze music and we get a little bit into the theory of from where do we get all these chords, these major chords, minor chords, and most of the time the chords that we hear, the songs that we hear, are either in major or a minor key. And the chords that we play in the majority of the songs, they all fit within one key. What does that mean? That, for example, we have this scale, C major, and from each note of the scale I can come up with a chord, right? So from C I'll get a C major, from D minor, E minor, and so on and so forth. So today we're not going to go that deep into the specifics and the theory of how to build those chords and why the first one is major, the second one is minor, but it's something to take into account. And I have here a document. It will be kind of our help memory. So, for example, here you can see this C major. You have all the notes, each note of the scale: C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And these are the chords that belong to this scale, and you will see that each chord has a name and let's say a nickname and a surname. So we have C, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and the last one, the seventh chord, is a diminished chord. And kind of the important thing to know is that this structure, that the first chord is major, the second minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, is a structure that repeats, is the same in every key. So for example, here we go to G major. So now G is the one. We have here, you can see we have an F sharp. So each scale has different notes, but you can see here that is the same kind of a structure. So the first chord, the one, is major, the second chord is minor, the third chord minor, major, major, minor, and the seventh chord is diminished. And in this document I have all the 12 keys, and you can see that they all have the same structure. So for example, if I play the 7 chords of each chord of the scales, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and back to 1. Now I'm going to play it in G, and you will see that it sounds similar, although I'm playing on a different key. So like that. So how can we use these chords, right? So, and this is also good to use it in the reverse sense, so not to create songs, but to kind of extract information from the songs that we already know, that we already play, and try to find, if they fit with this group of chords, and we'll see that most of the time, the songs will fit in one of these keys. And so if we want to stay in one tonality, we can use, for example, all these chords and come out with a progression. So for example, yeah.
This is Chris. Glad to be here.
Hey, Chris.
When someone says, I'm going to play it in the key of C, is that what this is talking about, in the key of G?
Exactly. So for example, the key of C will have the C as the first chord, and that will be kind of home. And usually that song will probably start in C and will end in C, and it will use the notes of the C major scale. So those notes, and from those notes we're coming up with these chords at the same time. So exactly, when someone says, okay, this song is in C major, you will probably find these chords in that song. So for example, let's grab a couple of these chords, and you will probably recognize some songs that use these chords. So for example, I'm going to grab the 1, the 4, and the 5. So that's a very common progression. So 1 will be C major, the 4 will be F major, and the 5 will be G major. So I have, and then this is just the harmony part, but then we have all the other part of music that's, for example, rhythm. So I can play this, and I'm sure you're already recognizing many songs that have this progression. What if I, instead of playing, I don't know, 1, 4, and 5, I can play, for example, 4. I will start in 4. Let's do 6, 2, and 5. Or we can choose any of these chords. So I will play an F, 6, maybe 5. Another 3-chord progression. F, A minor, 6, G. For example, when I played that progression, I'm not going to the 1. Even if we said we were playing in C major, you can choose some of these chords and not even go to the 1, and that will also generate a different sound to the song.
And another quick question, again, being mostly songwriting and not a guitar player. So when they say key of C, it'd be key of G. Most of these will, and I've heard the 1, 4, 5 before.
Yeah.
Are most of these chord progressions just only using 3 chords when it says key of C? It's not going to use like all. You can, I guess, but most songs is going to be in the 3 chords, I guess.
Yeah, most songs, you might have 3 or 4 chords. For example, let's grab, I don't know, a song for like Knocking on Heaven's Door. So that song is in the key of G, and that song goes G, D major, so the 5, and then A minor, so the 2. I'm playing 1, 5, and 2. Then we repeat plays 1, 5, but then instead of going to the 2, it goes to the 4. So to the 4. So there you have a progression with 4 chords. No, but there are not 4 chords that in a row. So you have 1, 5, 2, and then you repeat 1, 5, but then you go to the 4. So you have 4 chords, but yeah, they're not all together. And you can have, in most songs, yeah, you have the verse that might have a chord progression, and maybe in the chorus you have a different chord progression. So maybe in the verse you had 3 chords, and in the chorus you have other 3 chords, or maybe you add 1 chord, or you change one of the previous chords with another one. But you also have examples where you can find, yeah, all 7 chords. For example, one very common way of finding those, of playing the all 7 chords is what we call the circle of fifth. So for example, let's say I start here in G. So from G, I'm going to go to the 4th. So. And we are always skipping, from one chord, jumping in the same interval. So for example, the key in G, this for example. Right, so I'm starting in G, then from G I'll go to C, from C I'll go to F sharp, from F sharp I'll go to A minor, from A minor I'll go to D, and to D, from D you see back to G, for example. Or we can come up with different progressions that can take us through the all 7 chords. But yeah, and then whatever chords we choose will determine our melodies, because when we play, for example, a G, most of the time we will want to use the notes that are part of the chord. That doesn't mean that we cannot use notes that are not part of the chord, but most of the time we will be kind of targeting those notes or playing around those notes, and that's what makes chords sound good with any specific melody. It's usually because that melody is playing many of these chord tones. So let's see. So we have Juan back.
Hello again.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put you on the spotlight again.
Thank you.
Let me see. There we go.
Awesome.
Okay, so I think we have a question from Don. Question: a typical chord progression in a major key is 1-4-5 chord progression, but my question is, in a minor key, is the 1-4-5 also a typical progression? Yeah,
Yes,
actually it is. So for example, in A minor, you have, that would be the 1, the 4th, you have D minor, and the 5. Usually we have a major chord for the 5 in any key. That will be a 1-4-5. So yeah, it is also very common progression also in the minor key.
Yeah, also, just to answer that real quick, if you take a look at a major blues, you'll see that the main chord the 12-bar blues uses are 1, 4, and 5. So this is all 1, 4, 1, 5, 4, 1, 5. That's on a major key. But on a minor key, although there are some little changes that the minor blues has, the main outline is still 1, 4, and 5. So that would sound like this. This is 1, 4, 1. This one is called 6th, 5, 1, and 5. So yeah, still the same degrees, 1, 4th, and 5th, or 5th, on minor keys as well, are very, very common. With that said, yeah, that's awesome. Chords, the chords of a key, how to use them on common progressions. I also wanted to add something a little bit different, and it's called how to build melodies. So this has basically infinite approaches. The very first one that I like to explore is exploring a scale. So for instance, coming back to the scale of C major, it has these notes, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. While what I like to do a lot of the times in order to start building melodies is just to explore how I describe with adjectives the notes of a specific scale. So for example, if I'm playing over the chord of C major and I start to play an E, that for me is a note that sounds bright, it sounds joyful or expressive. It's kind of a cute sound. For me, for instance, B over C, which is the 7th. This was the 3rd. This is the 7th. The 7th sounds like delicate for me. For me, this is bright. This is delicate. For me, the 5th is neutral, and the root is conclusive. It's kind of obvious, like this is where it ends. So for instance, with these 4 notes I have C, E, G, and B. I can already start building melodies. So actually, I'm gonna open up a track, but in a second. I'm for now just gonna use this note right here, but the point being, I can start exploring these notes in order to build a melody. Just trying random ideas, just trying to use these notes. Right? For instance, I wanted something that sounded delicate, so that's why I included this B. Now, if I want something more joyful, I'll take a hold of that E. If I want something more conclusive, I'll end my ideas on C. Right? That sounds like something ended. So yeah, look, I'm not even thinking about rhythm, about the amount of notes I'm using, nothing. Just trying to get a hold of kind of the expression that the scale has. So that on its own can be a very interesting way of trying out some ideas. With that said, please just give me a second because I want to find a track that I have over here in order to expand a little bit here. So it's right here. You guys can hear this.
Yes, yeah.
Awesome. So this is a track that we have over here on our classroom on the GuitarZoom Academy. So when you're a member of that, you have access there. And that's a track I made on my own. So that's a drone track. It's just a static chord for 5 minutes. And part of the intention of that is to explore chords and scales in relationship between each other. So for instance, applying the same exercise I just did on the scale, I would just try to improvise some ideas using this note over this C major track, for instance. If I want something happy, I can end on E. I want something delicate, I can end on B. If I want something more conclusive, I can end on C. Right? I'm using C as conclusive, E as bright, B as delicate. Let's use G as neutral. I'm kind of using that G as a way of ending my ideas, but not sounding as conclusive as the root can sound. That G is kind of a little bit open-ended as well. Kind of wants me to go somewhere else. So that's one starting point that I could give you guys in order to start exploring how to build melodies. Take a look at a scale, take a look at notes individually, and try to understand them in the context of the key they are over. So if we're using the C major scale, going to a track that only has C major, or if you're using the A minor pentatonic, for example, look up a track on YouTube that just has a static A minor and start to just improvise with those notes. You'll find that if you take your time on resting on each one of the notes, every one of them will have a distinct feeling to them. So that's the first idea I would have, just to explore that kind of emotional expression you can get out of this. The next step that I can give you guys for building melodies is called motif development. So a motif is a very short musical idea that's recognizable from a specific piece of music. So for instance, Beethoven's do 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 do. That's a very short idea. Do 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 do. And they use different notes of a scale to expand on that later on. Do 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 do. After that, they just make the rhythm faster. They use different notes of the scale, but it's the same very short idea. So with that in mind, check this out. Going back to the same track. I, for example, want to do an idea that only has 3 notes. That's my motive. Da, da, da. I'm gonna keep the same kind of shape, but I'm gonna use different notes of the scale now. So with that, I did 3 phrases with the same kind of melodic direction. Right, just using different notes of the scale. Now that was doing ta to ta. What if I revert the directions and instead of doing up, down, up, I do down, up, down. That's my motif. With that in mind and playing with either this kind of direction or this inverted direction, I can play around with a lot of ideas. So for example, right? That on its own, I just repeated the same idea like 8 times. That already sounds like a cohesive musical idea. So a motif is a very interesting technique that we can use in order to just build melodies very, very easily. As you could see, I only used 3 notes, and that was enough to develop a whole phrase and a whole idea. So yeah, that's kind of a very short introduction on motif development. So far, guys, is this making sense? If there are any questions or comments, please just let us know. Miguel, do you have anything to add to motifs, maybe?
Yeah, so with that in mind of the motifs, I would say, like, no, don't be afraid of, repeating. When I was starting, creating melodies, I had this idea that I had to do something different, all the time. And also, if you listen to pretty much any melody of any popular song, you will find that there's a lot of repetition, and that has to do with creating this motif. So you have, for example, what you mentioned of the Beethoven. No, you can continue with that idea, or and I keep playing on these Bob Dylan songs, but there's one song that I was working with one of the students, and the melody, has this motif, and then repeats that motif, and repeats again, and then it has a conclusion. But you have basically two ideas. You have da 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 da, and it might adapt that same motif, that same kind of rhythm, and it might adapt the melody to whatever chord progression is playing. So it starts, for example, with a C, and then it resolves to a B because the chord progression goes to a G major, so that note fits with the chord. So even if you're repeating the same motif, if you have movement in your chord progression, you have something interesting there, and you can adapt your melody to those chords by just repeating one element. So again, so don't be afraid of this kind of simplicity of creating melodies with very few elements. Usually that when this phrase of less is more.
Yeah,
usually
I used that principle on a song I very recently wrote. I already had like a progression and an arpeggio that I liked. So the progression went like this: A major, then C sharp minor, and B natural. That was the whole progression. A minor for 2 R's, then C sharp minor, and B major. That was my progression. So I was playing with an arpeggio I had kind of done for this. And I was just playing with that arpeggio, kind of just looping it to try to sing a melody in my head. So the very first thing that came to my mind was this. Ta-da! So I just looked up that notes on the guitar and I got this. So I just thought of the concept motif. Let's keep this pretty simple. This on its own can be a motif. It's a melody that goes up. So I ended up with this. The melody being that's the whole thing. But yeah, that on top of the chord progression already sounds very solid. And yeah, if you start to be more fancy, it has a very big texture. But that was basically it, what I did for this. Just a motif transposed to a couple of notes on the scale, and that was enough for having a whole idea. So yeah, don't be afraid of being creative, of being simple. Obviously, if we want, or if the context asks us to be, we can go more complex. But don't be afraid of being real simple with your ideas. You'll be surprised at how much magic you can find in just the simple things. So yeah, that was just kind of reinforcing that point Miguel did. With that in mind, yeah, that's what I had for motifs. What else do you have in mind, Miguel?
Well, we could talk about structure now, a little bit about the form, and yeah, how to work with that. So usually we have different ways of seeing form in a kind of like the big picture of the song. That, for example, it can be verse, chorus, and then kind of a smaller form that is the structure of each part. So, for example, verse, we can structure our melody and in, for example, one motif that repeats again, and then it has a conclusion. So we have this answer and response, or call and response. And for example, I was thinking about that while you were playing your melody, this da 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 da. So you change the direction in the last one, and to me that sounds, for example, like a call and response. It gives this sense of kind of conclusion to your phrase. So
yeah, look, those last two. It's kind of question and answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And yeah, so I think it's good to think about that, the forms, and in a song, so that, as the name says, it gives, structure, and it helps, to organize your ideas. So you might have, for example, an idea, and again, coming back to kind of my experience starting, writing songs, that you have an idea, maybe you have everything, the melody, the chords, but then what do you do with that, or how you get out of that idea and bring out something new, something different. So I think, for example, classifying that as, something like that can be a verse, or that can be a chorus. It helps you to say, okay, so I have this part, this melody with these chords, and I need something different. And I feel like, for example, finding contrast can help a lot with coming up with a new part. So, for example, we were talking about the 1-4-5 chord progression. So maybe that's your verse, or your first idea that you had. So maybe for the next section you can think of a different chord progression, and here you have only major chords, for example. And so something that will contrast with that will be, for example, adding minor chords, and you can stay maybe in the same key and play all the minor chords. Or, for example, if your melody was an ascending melody, you can try and find contrast with that. So the direction of the melody. So if your melody was going up, maybe try something that is descending. Or if you had something very rhythmical, maybe try something more lyrical. Or if you had maybe a lot of chords, maybe the next section can have just one chord, or just a couple of chords. And then, in the same way that we were talking about the motifs and the repetition, again, don't be afraid of repeating one section that you had. So, for example, if you had a verse, usually in a song, you will have that verse coming back a couple of times. The same with probably a chorus, and that also gives it makes a song recognizable, and it's nice to hear again the same idea that you presented at the beginning, to hear that back. So because when we're writing, everything feels kind of old, or you get an idea and and you feel that like you need to bring more and more and new ideas and new ideas. So again, just don't be afraid of repeating that one section. Usually, for example, a verse will repeat with different lyrics. You can modify other things, like maybe how you play it, maybe the rhythm that you use, the intensity, the dynamics, that kind of stuff. But using the same material. You have any thoughts on form and structure? One?
Yep, I just think you touched exactly on what I wanted to mention, which is contrast. I think when writing songs, contrast is crucial. And not only when writing, but also when soloing, just basically when creating music, contrast is essential. So, for instance, you were saying, what happens if we have a section that has a lot of major chords and then we, to contrast it, go into minor chords? That's an idea. Or what happens if we have a very rhythmic part and to contrast it, go more lyric? That's an idea. Another one I could have is if your chord changes are being, for example, very short, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Every 2 beats. What happens if in a section that's going to contrast all of that, we change every bar or every 2 or every 4 bars? Like we can play around with the rhythm of our chord changes as well. Or yeah, what happens if our chord progression is very short, we go into a longer one? So I was just kind of improvising chords here. I got into this idea. This could be a section A, let's call it. That can be a verse, a chorus, whatever we want it to be. Let's contrast. So a pre-chorus, minor chords, longer chord changes. It has a longer loop to it. Maybe a rhythm. Back to. Right? That contrast on going longer on that previous section made it like very familiar to go back to these shorter chord changes here. Or yeah, these major chords now shine more because we contrasted that with this darker side of the minor chords. So contrast is crucial. I like to exaggerate on opposite ends all of the time. So if we're major, go minor. If we're going fast, go slow. If we're, I don't know, if our melody has a lot of neighboring notes, which are notes that are together, like that, we can go on bigger jumps or leaps on the scale. Stuff like, right, like bigger movements on your melody can be a good contrast. So yeah, whenever you feel like you're getting stuck on that little aspect, try to changing around and go into the other end of the spectrum. Contrast is crucial. I can't stress that enough. And also repetition. Repetition legitimizes. So as Miguel was saying, an idea that can start to feel old when you're the one writing it, but when you're a listener and you listen to something that you had already heard before on the track, it just feels so familiar to get back on it again. I don't know if you guys felt that, but at least I did feel it when I was playing this progression. So I kind of moved to these chords. And I took my time here. I kind of really wanted to separate this idea. So I did all of this. This feels familiar. There's a sense of familiarity and kind of a climax on the dynamics of the song as well when you get back to a point that you had already exposed before. So yeah, I think those are two very important things to always consider both on the small and big spectrum of things. Contrast and repetition, those are going to be crucial. And now also I wanted to say, take a listen, or this is something that I like to do on my own kind of music writing process, and it's take a listen to the music that you like and analyze the song structure. I think a very good exercise is to copy, like literally copy the structure that someone else is doing. Obviously, it will feel different because you will be filling in that structure with your own ideas, but it's kind of just to get a sense of how do people usually organize their ideas on a composition. For example, it's very common to have a song kind of structure that goes verse, chorus, to contrast, bridge, and back to chorus to kind of re-expose that initial idea. I don't know, I can think of a ton of The Police songs like that, for example, or Bruno Mars, just to say something. That's a very common structure. If you're maybe more into jazz standards, you'll see that a very common progression is A section again, B section, that's entirely different, and A section again. For instance, So What by Miles Davis. They repeat all of that. B. Back to A. That's the whole standard. A, B, A. That's a very common structure for jazz standards. Again, contrast was the key part. They were only playing with a single progression of two voicings, but what they used to change the whole thing was to transpose this half a step up and back to the original key. That contrast and coming back home as well, that is what makes this feel so interesting. So yeah, again, take a look at the structure of music that you like. Sometimes it's a pretty straightforward structure as that typical song, verse, chorus, but sometimes it will have different things. If you take a look at Guns N' Roses, you'll find that they have solo 1, solo 2, solo 3, sometimes not even a chorus. There's just this section that I don't know how to name, and maybe this other bridge, but it's maybe bridge 2. Like, you'll encounter a lot of different ideas when you start analyzing solos. Sorry, not solos, but songs. So yeah, take a look at the music that you listen. You'll find their own kind of little details that makes it unique. If you like metal, you'll find very interesting ideas. I can think of Hangar 18 by Megadeth. That structure is infinite. Like, it has like a million solos and all of those in betweens that God knows how they are called. You can go analyze pop, analyze blues. You'll also encounter that some of them have very kind of long cycles, maybe 16, 32 bars that have different variations there. Or maybe some of them just have cycles of 4 to 8 bars, like shorter kind of repeated cycles. So you'll encounter a lot of things just analyzing the music that you like. And again, my invitation is, or at least this is what works for me a lot, to copy those structures, at least as an exercise, to kind of put yourself into actually creating something, already having a plan right there in front of you. So that's what I think I have to say on that end. Do you have something to add there, Miguel?
Yeah, that idea of that kind of exercise of using the same structure of a song, that's also something that I really like doing, and I think it's very, very useful. And it made me think of this quote. I don't know who said it, but it's like good artists copy great artists still. And that's very good, and that also helps a lot, to this kind of idea of when you are creating something, if it's either a solo that you're improvising or a song that you're writing, that problem of the blank canvas, right? You have your canvas, so completely blank. You have to create something, and yeah, where do you start? And for example, having that is okay. I'm going to use the same form of this song by whoever, the Beatles, and you copy the same exact form, and then you just have to kind of fill the blanks, but you already have your structure. So that's already something that you don't have to think about because you already have it, and yeah, you have to create something that fits that structure. And something that usually happens, that happened to me, is that okay, you're using that structure, you start writing your music, and then you said, here, instead of going to the chorus, I feel like I need a bridge. And then you come up with something new from a fixed structure that you force yourself to write on, or use also kind of these classic structures or forms, for example, a blues. So write a blues, and that's also something that you hear Elvis, the Beatles, Bob Dylan, then all the classic blues artists, they all have this a couple of blues. So that's something that can be helpful to get out of this blank canvas problem. So that's great. And yeah, same as you said, analyzing the songs that you like, and you will discover maybe why you like these songs, and what is it so special, analyzing the form or their melodies. And I was thinking also of kind of exceptions, or maybe not exceptions, but you mentioned a couple of songs that have a lot of parts, a lot of different sections, and I was thinking of the opposite. Some songs that it's just one part, or for example, that same song, the Knocking on Heaven's Door, is the same chords for the verse and for the chorus. So you're just changing the melody, but using the same exact chord changes. Or for example, this song, Horse with No Name, also has just the same two chords for the entire song, but you have this contrast. So the verse is this melody with not a lot of movement, almost kind of spoken. It's almost like telling a story, just spoken. And then you have this chorus that's very melodic. So there you have contrast just with the melody, because the chord and the rhythm is of the accompaniment is exactly the same. So yeah, just with those elements, copying, we have some ideas for chords, ideas for melodies, ideas for the form, the structure, and some ideas of how to work on this. So copying that, or analyzing other musicians or the songs that you like. And yeah, as a final comment, I would say that writing music is something that it can be worked, because also many times we have this idea that it's something that you have to be creative, and you have to kind of be born creative, and that one day you get inspired and you will write something. I had a teacher that said, that there is those days that you feel inspired, but you have to try that the inspiration finds you working, finds you at your desk writing. But so it is something that you can work on, that you can practice, creativity, practice the songwriting. So if you are interested in that and you want to get better at writing, so write songs, write one song, then write another one, then another one, then another one. And then I can guarantee you that song number 5 will be a lot better than song number 1, and song number 10 will be a lot better. Song number 20, even better. Then, so just that to kind of take out that idea that you have to be born creative, or you need to have this kind of gift. That might exist. It definitely exists, but there's also a lot of work, behind creative work. So just that idea too.
Yeah, expanding a little bit on that, I actually did one semester of composition at college, and that was like the very first semester. So our teacher told us exactly that. You in college see all of these crazy instrument people studying 2, 3, 6, 8 hours a day on their instrument, and you just walk through the hallways and they're there on their practice rooms just practicing. He said, look at them, like take a look at the hallway and take a look at how many of them are putting in the hours in their instruments. That's exactly the same thing that we need to do, but writing, it's a skill. We sometimes think that it's like this magical moment where inspiration hits and no, I need to write something, and all of a sudden it is produced. No, it's a skill. It's a skill that you kind of can train. So the more hours you put into it, the easier it will start to become over time, or the more you'll know yourself creatively as well. So the easier it will be to just channel your ideas and actually put them there. So yeah, that's one thing, just to double down on that point, that this is a skill that's worked on. And also, I feel it's important to take into account that, or at least for me, it happens a lot, that blank canvas syndrome is a thing. Like I sometimes sit down to practice and or to write, and it's like, now what do I do? So yeah, for that, I think a very kind of easy fix is to limit yourself. The more limits you have on writing, the easier it will be to play with the little tools you have in front of you. So for instance, a limit can be, I want to do this structure, like I will stick to just these sections and I won't do anything else. Another limit can be, I don't want to use, I don't know, major chords. That forces me to only use minor chords. I don't want to do long chord progressions. That will shorten my progressions right off the bat. These are just kind of random ideas I'm thinking of, but you can get a lot of interesting ideas with those limits. What happens if I only use big leaps on my melodies? All of a sudden my melodies will sound like very random stuff, but that on itself can have its magic to it, and also can just spark like something creative in me right away in order to get past that roadblock. So the more limits that you have, the easier it will be to create something, because you'll need to be very creative with just this very limited amount of tools you have in front of you. So that's a tip I can give you guys in case you ever get that kind of blank canvas syndrome. Limits is going to be crucial. With that said, also last little thing I wanted to mention, again, song structure, that for me on my songwriting journey has been very, very important. I kind of started to become crazy about it when I started to analyze hip hop, because it was like, these guys don't really have choruses, or sometimes they do. What happens when they don't? Like, what determines the structure? It became a very fun learning exercise to go into listening to those recordings and analyze what makes it feel like there are sections if all of it is just the same thing. Sometimes it's the arrangement, sometimes it's they add an instrument and take it away, or there's a melody here, or they do change the chord progression or the beat. There are a lot of things you can explore by listening to the music that you like. So just doubling down on that again. With that said, guys, I think that's what we have for today. This is a pretty broad topic. We just kind of touched the surface. There's a lot of stuff that we could dive deeper on, and it would be an 8-hour class. But for now, we will leave it here. With that said, we're just going to share the link one last time for you guys to consider applying for our academy if you feel that's something you're interested into taking a look. We do this kind of stuff every day. We talk about guitar, about creating, about soloing, about specific kind of theory stuff as well every day. So in case you consider that's something that your guitar journey could get a use of, consider applying for our academy, and we'll just be very happy to talk with you and see if this is the right fit for you. With that said, any questions from the class, guys, or comments? Please let us know if so. And if not, again, just thank you very much for joining. Also, thank you, Miguel, for the class. It's been awesome.
Thank you, Juan.
And hope you have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys.